Morning everyone. Hi, I'm Belle from the GPT group and I'll just move to the next slide. So the GPT group, we are a co-owner and a manager of $24 billion worth of high quality property across Australia, spanning logistics, office and retail. So we are consistently a world leader in terms of property groups in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. We have the first Neighbours Waste rated building, 480 George, which is just down the street, and we have some very aspirational carbon neutrality targets which we're going to meet in 2020 and 2030. So my day-to-day role is really helping operations managers in offices and shopping centres meet their recycling targets. So we have a closed loop approach and policy to the materials that are leaving our buildings. What that means is, and we've talked about retaining value in materials, we actually break down the recycling that leaves our assets and we grade it as an A, B or C outcome, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. So I've included this picture of one of our shopping centres. Waste is really about people. For us, waste is really about tenants. We have very limited control over the materials that actually come into our buildings that we have to recover and dispose of, and it's really quite challenging when tenants bring in a whole bunch of materials that potentially are not recoverable downstream. So I'm going to expand on that in the next slides. So how do you manage a waste stream that you have very little control over upstream? So if we look at the graph down in the bottom corner, this is the typical profile of one of our assets. As I said, we don't just assume that everything that is taken away in a yellow lidded bin is actually recycled. We break it down into an A grade outcome. So what that means is it is actually truly recycled in a proper closed loop. It maintains the highest level of circularity and the highest value of those materials. A B grade outcome is downcycling. I feel like we're in a room where most people know what downcycling is, or a C grade outcome where we have a very limited one-off use of those materials. So generally things that are going through an AWT and then what goes to landfill. So if we have a sophisticated understanding of the materials and their outcomes downstream, we can work upstream to try and increase that recovery. So how we do that is having a very serious approach to chain of custody. So up in the top corner there you can see we go to as many processing facilities as we can, understand their own processes and what they can and can't accept and what the outcome of those materials are. There's several photos of that around. This is one of my particular favourites. There's nothing more Australian than profiling a cardboard compactor and finding a shrimp and prawn peeler in that. That was up in the Northern Territory last year. But really our other initiatives are to understand the profile yearly. So every year we tip out the recycling bins and the organics bins. We look at what's actually in them, grade those, and then also working with our tenants as well to make sure we give them the right information, because ultimately source separation within tenancies is that first step to actually being able to recover those materials. So for us, we have the touch points of tenants putting things in the right bins, cleaning contractors taking that material to the right bin or compactor in the back dock, a waste collection contractor taking those materials to a licensed facility that has good processes to recover materials, and then the processing facility itself, understanding it, being able to visit it, having transparency and being able to go and actually visit and see what happens there. So that is, I guess, the principles and the way that we work to try and ensure that we understand what is actually happening downstream. Now, where we do have influence over some of the materials that we have to dispose of, we try to work on innovation projects. This is one that we have going on down in Melbourne offices at the moment. Who has ever gone to a cafe and owns a keep cup but either forgot their keep cup or didn't want to wash it that morning, or they've left it in their car, or anything else like that? It's a safe space. I'm going to admit it. I used 3 single-use coffee cups last year. So basically we are offering this service to our tenants in our office buildings to allow them at the point of sale to use a reusable cup with a membership. It's just like a library card system for cups. that's connected with an account that you have. You go and drink your coffee and then you return it. It goes back to the cafe. You never own a cup. So it's really a circular collection of cups that will move around that building. So we've got some trials of that going on down in Melbourne at the moment. And in terms of the working to the principles of a closed loop approach, what I've put in the corner there is a picture of Frank. Frank Shannon is the person who essentially takes the cups back in Melbourne. They're 100% recoverable without, they're not downcycled, I guess is what I'm saying. So at the end of life, those cups are actually turned straight back into the material that they're made of, which is Triton. It's a medical grade plastic. So this is something that we're really excited about. It's been a long journey, I think. I think there's probably many of you here who have tried battling the coffee cup issue, and really what we're trying to do now is not put the onus on the user. We've got our people who use their keep cups day in, day out. We're not targeting them. We're targeting the next group of people who really would like to use a reusable cup but just have barriers. So in terms of materiality of the materials that leave our sites, we really do, it comes down to food waste, organics, cardboard and packaging. So to manage downstream, we need to look upstream. I just wanted to show you, I guess, the reality of a typical food court in one of our shopping centres and the diversity, complexity and just the sheer amount of different types of packaging that we're trying to actually recover and deal with. So this was actually a suggestion of, this is Dean Neves, one of our cleaning managers. He said, hey, let's just go look at what the retailers are using. Let's do a bit of an audit. It was a really interesting process. There was everything from composite materials, there was compostable packaging, wax-coated paper, polystyrene, plastic without resin codes, you name it, anything and everything. And this was only with eight food courts in one shopping centre. So we looked at all of that. I think one of the most interesting parts was actually talking to some of the tenants. So one of them, they're a small family. They're they're working probably 18 hours a day to keep their shop running. But they said, look, we've bought this compostable packaging. Isn't this good? We're not just a food company. We really want to be a green company as well. And I looked at it, and you almost want to cry, because I know that material is not recoverable in our commercial composting facility. And this is really where the messaging and the complexity and the communications and the greenwash comes in. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And another tenant who had the big polystyrene container for chips, brought it out, and he was like, I know this is the bad one, but they don't make this size in the other one, in the cardboard one. And, it was almost like, I'm sorry. So, we've got this heightened awareness, I think, in the community, but trying to actually make the right purchasing decisions in a way that aligns with our actual asset and the facilities downstream can be quite challenging. So part of my role, and it's becoming an increasingly larger one, is to actually watch the products and services that are coming online on market that our tenants are possibly going to be purchasing. Now, I think what I'm seeing at the moment is 3 distinct patterns of those. A lot of those will have an unintended consequence upstream or downstream. They claim to solve one environmental problem somewhere, generally at the point of recycling, but the overall impact, I think, or I believe, is actually going to be worse than the current practices that what that tenant is using now. So there's three patterns. I'm seeing either blatant greenwash. So I went to one of our commercial composting facilities down near Wollongong a couple of weeks ago, and I said, can you just show me what packaging is actually coming through your facility that you can't process? And they had a little box, and they brought it all out and showed it all to me. So I looked at some of their websites. This was a personal favourite up here in the left-hand corner. I'm not here to name and shame particular companies, but what they touted on their website was PLA, compostable packaging. You can put this through your food waste organic service, and very sophisticated branding, marketing, etc. And when you actually dug down into the detail, that even so kindly provided this little diagram of the logical degradation cycle. And I included that because I knew people in this room were going to get a little chuckle out of that. But, you know, for someone just out there trying to buy compostable packaging, you'd never pick up on, you know, how sloppy this company's practices really are. So the second pattern I think I'm seeing is products which disclose parts of their process or parts of their composition, the parts that are convenient for them, and that's how they're sold. I saw a company who downcycle products this week on their website refer to it as upcycling. Now, we all know the difference between downcycling and upcycling. Again, that tenant buying that particular piece of packaging is probably not going to know the difference between upcycling and downcycling, and let's face it, upcycling sounds a lot nicer than downcycling. And the third pattern is companies fully disclosing everything that the impacts that they have, but it is just so confusing that it's very hard to make an actual informed choice. So I think to wrap up, so Robin had asked what would we like? What's one thing we'd like from the industry? I think we need better transparency in a way that it's communicated, which is palatable and easy for the our everyday tenant to be able to make decisions. Accountability. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these products and services that are out on the market at the moment, where I think their practices are going to rise up to full light, and capacity building as well. So that's something that I'm very passionate about. I really make the effort to upskill my colleagues and help them understand, without being an expert in the waste industry, how to make informed decisions and how to influence our tenants. On the last note, these are two of our science graduate interns who are working with us at the moment. I guess I'm always thinking about the next generation and what we might need to enable a circular economy. I think it would be great. So they're both studying science and they tell me about their subjects, as did I. But it would be awesome, I think, to see some kind of hybrid degree of science and design and industrial design, because at the moment I feel like there's sort of a very big disconnect in that. And designers is something I'm really keen to speak to people about and would really, I guess, appreciate other people's input from the rest of the room, because I feel like we probably don't talk about them enough. And as a stakeholder group, I don't even really fundamentally understand. So if you go back to that picture of the packaging that I'm trying to deal with, where the designers of that packaging even physically are. Are they in Australia? Are they overseas? Where is this group of people? So thank you.